Oh,
Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 2, day 2 of the Academy broadcast. We're there already at the end of it. I mean, it's crazy to think that a week has gone by this fast. I'm hosting stream A this time around. I got Mazel hosting stream B as always.
it's a surprise.
Monsieur Mazel,
Hi,
I think I
hi.
should say,
Yes.
right? I believe you have
I
an
need
alter
my
ego
titles.
running around.
Wait, that's not me. We've never been seen in the same room at the same time, all right? That baguette,
Oh, okay.
I don't know where that came from.
All right. Well, I lost a loaf of bread
I don't know what
suspiciously
you're talking
the
about.
same
You
day.
don't eat baguettes. Come on, let's get real here. But we did have a very, very fun day of games. Speaking of baguettes yesterday, as maybe bangettes, I don't know. But there were some very fun games, and we have to kind of recap. It was a day full of 2-0s, Kangas, and
Sweeps.
yeah, a lot of sweeps. Unfortunately, we don't have any brooms available right now, but it was a day of sweeps.
All 2-0s across the board. Dignitas, TL, 100 Thieves, CLGA, and EG, all the ones coming out on top there. And some of them were closer series. Some of them were legit sweeps. Absolutely insane. But I'm hoping today, I mean, we already tweeted it out. How many 2-0s are we going to have today? I want a tie day because Mazel has not agreed to this yet, but everybody else on broadcast said if we ever have a day of all ties, we're going to wear all ties the next broadcast.
Everyone else, he says, Cubby and Ruff.
Yeah, I actually don't even remember how many others agreed to this, but I'm gonna throw them all
go
in
with
since
it. Why
I'm
not?
around
I
right
mean,
now.
hey, I'm always down for a tie day for sure.
Exactly. Let's pull up the current standings right now to catch everybody up on where teams are shaking out, Mazel, because we're 3 days of competition deep.
We are very spread game score spread, I guess, across the board. I would say, FlyQuest definitely looking for their first win is a big one for me today to look for, and a lot of confidence in that team to come build back up after an 0-6 start. But on the other side, CLG and 100 Thieves tied for first place. The standings are correct. They are right on your screen. You don't have to smudge. You don't have to wipe that little smudge off your glasses or off your screen. They are correct.
And yeah, if you missed yesterday, Immortals Progressive, they were the only undefeated team going into the week at 4-0, and they got 2-0'd yesterday. So, I mean, that one against CLG Academy obviously skyrocketed CLG now towards the top, tied with 100 Thieves. I don't remember when we'll get to see that matchup later on in the split, but that will be exciting once we do get that, especially if they can keep things going. Looking at today's matchups, though, it's going to be a lot of competition still. So, that's where we're at. 2 teams with 1 loss, 5 wins, no undefeated. FlyQuest, let's see if they can get their first win starting today.
Yeah, exactly. And, Coach being able to be there, Strikes finally in person here should be huge for the team. But now we got to talk about today because we get some bangers themselves. All right, I'm hoping it's a little bit more contested as than it was yesterday, but we do have some very fun matchups. So, first of all, starting at the top here with my game, TSM Academy versus CLGA. I know you're jealous, Kangas. I know. It's okay, though.
Wait, Mazel, this is my game.
I know.
This is my. You can't take this from me.
I was hoping you were going to come in and steal it from me, but you just let it go.
All right, now TSM versus CLG will be happening on stream A to start things off, and you will have 100 Thieves C9. So we'll get to see both of the teams at the top of the standings on both streams at the start. So a reminder, if you're watching on twitch.tv/academy or twitch.tv/faceittv, pull up the other stream, get both up and running. This show will be the same on both right now, but you'll want to catch the action from both of the top teams.
Exactly that, and I might be a little jealous that you get to cast TSM versus CLG. I got to cast TSM or cover TSM yesterday, and I did not get the result I wanted for sure. But we'll see today. Maybe they can pull it out. But speaking of, right, we got to talk about that first matchup. We got to talk about TSM Academy taking on CLG Academy because the Hyper Viper duo didn't come out too strong yesterday, but CLG were strong all together, Kangas.
Exactly. I mean, you've been really up on the Hyper Viper combo based on their performances earlier on in week 1. And yeah, they didn't look as powerful yesterday. CLG Academy, they're not skipping a beat right now. This team looks so coordinated, so together. And a lot of team play early on in a season when typically you expect to see players struggling to, set up for objectives correctly, have these big macro plays. CLG Academy looking like one of the more comfortable teams in those kinds of scenarios. So that's what I'm looking forward to most here is what is CLG Academy's approach to draft and then also macro play in the game? Because that's what I've been the most impressed with so far with this roster.
Yeah, and being able to see that unfold early in the season is super nice, and I'm just really excited to see these two teams go head to head, especially. But for me, also, the next game on your list.
All right, let's just get through my list then. Yeah, and then we'll give you time to talk about yours. Golden Guardians Academy versus Evil Geniuses Academy here. Now, this is another interesting one. When you looked at the standings, Evil Geniuses is a team coming in I had really high expectations for. I actually rated them pretty highly. Currently sitting 3-3, and they've had some hits and some misses. I mean, again, this is what we can expect early on in the season from an academy team. But Kaori in particular, very impressive as an AD carry. I mean, coming in from the same league as Luger, we saw what Luger was able to do last year, now in the LCS, and what he's accomplishing there. I think that Kaori, already very early in his North America tenure, could have a very similar start to his career.
I see you. All right, I'm gonna let you finish, Kangas.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to drop in there is Skytech. Drop the mic. All right. And then we're going to walk away. We're going to talk about this.
Fair enough.
We're going to talk about the next series. So, Bjergsen's gone. Hayri is here. TLA versus Dignitas. Where Dignitas yesterday looking pretty spoopy. All right, Kangas, what do you think about this one?
So this one's interesting to me because, of course, TLA and Dignitas both 2-0'd their games yesterday, or their matches yesterday. Team Liquid Academy, Harry, if anything, we should expect them to look better with than Bjergsen, because Bjergsen was coming in last second. Well, maybe not like super last second,
Harry
but
has a better
because
win
Harry
rate,
was
just
not
saying.
available. Harry has a better academy win rate. The stats speak for themselves. But the big thing is Harry and Armeo, they're the same mid-jungle combo from last year carrying over, and they did not look like they skipped a beat. Harry looked very on form. And also, I think Bradley was stepping it up a lot. He struggled in week 1 in academy. LCS lock-in got a chance to play on stage and popped off on the Akali, and then yesterday had a really good set of games too. So I think that things are starting to click for TLA. But you're right, Dignitas Academy are also looking very impressive right now. They're one of the teams towards the top at a 4-2 record, but it's either been sweeps or they get swept. It's 2-0s or 0-2s so far. So hopefully, maybe their powers combined will give us that tie finally.
Yeah,
1-1.
for sure. We'll see. Powers combined and all that. For me, this is the one of the most exciting of the day for sure. But Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves for me.
Yeah.
Because 100 Thieves yesterday looked so dominant, especially Kenvi on the likes of the Kindred. We're having the entire team pop off together. So I'm really excited for this roster this time around against C9 because we have been seeing, King performing very well. We've been seeing C9, not the greatest records, but still having the basics, I feel like, that can be built upon. So that's what I get so excited about this, because it's a true test for C9, and it's a further continuation of confidence for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, C9, again, the big story around them coming in was, what is their academy roster going to look like from a competitive standpoint in terms of, actually taking a lot of games off? Difficult to really put our temperature check on that, but what we can do is look at the individual members and how they are performing, and that's really the big focus for Cloud9 Academy right now. And I think that when you look at some of the names here, Frost Force has been having a pretty decent performance, and then, like you said, King also has been popping off, and we got Copy in the mid lane, of course, holding it down.
You can't go without mentioning Copy. Like, dude has been absolutely crazy for the squad. But our last game to cover for the day, IMT versus FlyQuest. FlyQuest trying to find their first win of the series. I believe they're feeling confident. I was talking to Loyota a little bit before, getting some nice inspirational messages. They feel confident. It is going to be a tall task, though. I mean, yes, IMT did lose 2 games yesterday, but the team itself still stacked as ever.
And of course, that just means that they're more hungry to pick up that first win. And again, looking at individual performers, I still believe Tomo and Diamond have had some really strong laning phases. It's just getting that to transition into the mid to late game. And also Philip, I think, is the unspoken hero of the team right now. Chatting with some of the other casters last night, they were talking up this guy and saying, like, yeah, I mean, a lot of key moments you could tell in those games, Philip was either keeping them in it or he was just in the right place at the right time, and then things didn't work out for the team overall. So I think for FlyQuest, again, individual performers, how are they going to step up against Immortals, who are also probably upset pretty, level 18 Cassidon, 12-2, wasn't able to win the game yesterday.
Oh, man. It was a fun day of games yesterday. I'm just hoping for some more bangers today for sure. And if you want to catch any of that attention to the academy and amateur scene and the development scene in total, go follow at Path to LCS. You have to. You literally have to. The content, everything coming out, it is amazing. So you should go do that.
The content that's actually prepared, you can see it right below you right now. Go to Twitter and just type that in, search it, follow it. Not only the content that we actually plan, but the content that they just throw out there of us without our consent has actually, I think, been some of the better content that we've had. And I think our socials guy hates me. So we're going to see if we can keep that battle going on throughout the split. But I think that's everything. Mazel, we caught everybody up on yesterday. We talked about what's coming on today. And now there's only one thing left to do. We have not, again, prepared a mind meld transition here as we get to our own streams.
Bye.
You got anything we can do? No, that's it. Let's do the fist bump. No, come on, we can try that again.
I want to go.
You're just gone.
I want to go. Fine.
All right, let's go.
I think we were in a scrim and someone said like we can do a gank or something on God, but then they were in the middle of killing a Gromp, so I was like, oh, you can just say on Gromp instead. And then Brendan chimed in with the other half of the
I was like, wait, I can add more to this. And I was just like, no crab instead of no cap. I was like,
on Gromp, no crab.
It was perfect.
We're going to be playing the actual game on Gromp, no crab. Now, what this is that you have to share your best on Gromp, no crab take.
Okay.
Whoever we deem as the worst take must tweet their Microsoft Paint drawing, their version of the Gromp, no crab logo with no context. And everyone just discovered what the context of that tweet is now, as we are airing this live. Okay, I will go first. I think that Chemtech Soul is balanced. And the Rift. All of it. Everyone has been really complaining about this. Ever since they added the plants, I feel like it is no contest. Like, the Rift isn't a problem. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
What do you think about that one, Brendan?
You know, I actually agree. I was talking to my teammate the other day, and I was going to say they just nerfed the Chemtech Soul for like the third time in a row, and this time it kind of did it.
They just ended the game in one of the academy matches with the zombie soul.
I won, but I have 100%. I have 100% win rate in solo queue against zombie soul. So
okay, that's wild because there's also
that's on the it's only out of one game.
Oh, okay, huge. All right. Well, in the spirit of we'll go inverse order here. Prismal, what is your on Gromp no crab take?
All right, so for me, I think something that needs to be talked about more is that Ziggs, the champion, a lot of people view him as just someone that throws bombs. You know, he's just on wave clear mid duty. But on Gromp, no crab, this champion's hard, guys. Like, I put in over 100 games to play Ziggs, and there's a lot of really cool things you can do. For example, there's a mechanic where if you ulti and someone CC'd, they have a chance to flash out of the ulti before, like let's say they're in a Leona ult or something. If you throw your Ziggs ult while they're Leona ulted, the Leona ult will end before the Ziggs ult lands, and they can flash. However, if you're really talented at Ziggs, as I am, you can put the satchel on the ground, throw the ulti, and then pop them in the air before they have a chance to flash. Now, you might think, well, that's not that hard, you just press W. However, the W will knock them in like an arc. So you want to predict where your W will have them land so that they still get hit by the center of the ulti. So you're trying to off-center the ulti, you know what I mean? And then W them into it. And so I think, just for that reason alone, Ziggs is a really hard champ on Gromp, no crab, and people should take him more seriously.
Now, to put some numbers by this, you had 17 games of Ziggs with a 59% win rate behind those.
Yes, sir.
We are actually in agreement with our first two on Gromp, no crab takes. So, Breezy, I hope you packed a good one.
My on Gromp, no crab take is that Yuumi is a really bad champion. That's my take.
Is that controversial?
I don't know. I think...
like, define bad. Like, do you think it's weak?
I think it's terrible first pick. I think it shouldn't be private at all. I think it's honestly one of the worst supports you can pick right now in the current meta, but people just keep first picking it.
If we lose to Yuumi, Brendan, this is going to be...
So, if we beat Yuumi, I'll just bring this up.
I agree, like, Yuumi can be bad sometimes, but there are scenarios where it's like, if she gets to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, she's got the Moonstone or the Ludens, whatever.
It's so oppressive.
Really oppressive, yeah.
It's
like,
so oppressive.
If you're against an immobile champ with no flash and you just press the Yuumi ulti, like, they're probably going to die. But there are better champs than Yuumi. I just think she's more punishable than people think that she is, but I wouldn't say that she's bad. So I'm like a 50-50 on this.
Okay, those are our three takes. Now, we have had a panel behind the scenes, and I think it'll please you guys to know that the loser of this event is me. It has been rated by the panel that Chemtech Soul.
Okay.
I guess everyone just thinks this is balanced. I don't know. Like I guess you guys just turned against me. I guess I don't know. So I will be throwing up this picture on Twitter that I have created, with no context until now. So now you guys know why. Prismal, Breezy, thanks so much for joining us, creating this wonderful meme. Start with you, Prismal. Any shout outs and where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Prismal. And for shout outs, no one in specific, all the CLG people, staff. We have a chef now named Phil. Ooh. That guy rocks. I had fresh ricotta today. It was made by him. It was awesome.
That sounds awesome.
And that's on Grump, no crap.
Breezy, what about you? Where can we find you? What do you got?
You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/BreezyOL with 3 Ys. And then shout out to, just my teammates and coaching and CLG staff and everything. It's been good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome for match 1 as we're prepared for it. Awesome to see Cubby wearing very different clothes now, getting a chance to chat with some of the CLG Academy members. And I'm not going to lie, I want to meet Philip. I want to meet that chef and taste some of that ricotta.
Can I, just say, my take, I said that it was balanced, and then I actually got the L from, Prismal, Breezy, Kelsey, who was the judge behind the scenes, and League of Legends for removing it from the game. So I'm just starting out today down horrendous, it happens sometimes.
But now, if you follow Cubby, you can see why he tweeted out that random looking image.
It was art.
I liked it. I didn't even remember you were doing the video. I just saw it. I was like, "That's a Cubby."
Same.
Tweet.
I actually didn't think anything of it. I was like, "Oh, that's just a Cubby tweet."
Right?
Okay.
You've been hacked.
The voice you're hearing right now, of course, myself. I'll be your host for today. I got Cubby and Magical as my colorcaster and play-by-play caster for the day. And we got 3 matches ahead of us here on Stream 1 to round out Week 2, everybody. First up, TSM Academy versus CLG Academy. I want to start chatting about it here because CLG are looking good and TSM are looking a little coin flippy. So let's start talking about it from the aspect of TSM. Gabby, I'm going to pass it to you first, of course. What should we expect from TSM Academy coming into today?
Yeah, I think that TSM, they've had 3 series, and it's either been an 0-2 or a 2-0. The one series that they 2-0'd, Hyper looked great. I mean, the way that they were attacking C9 through the top lane, through Viper, getting that combo going, I think really enabled them to have a dominant series, whereas the other 2, Hyper's really been on the back end of getting punished rather hard in the jungle, as the 2 100 Thieves junglers from last year, Chad and Kenvi, have both really gotten the best of him. Especially yesterday, Kenvi, that second game, that opening level 1, it did put Hyper in a really bad spot, but he didn't have a good response, and Kenvi ended up doing what Kenvi does, which was a Flame Horizon at the 23-minute mark in the jungle, and as Nidalee versus Jarvan, and it ended up being a really quick win for the side of 100 Thieves Academy, who are starting to put together better performances themselves, but for TSM, I want to see some more consistency and some more ways to maybe enable Hyper, get him going. And I think that it feels weird. We don't have a huge sample size, but it really has felt like if Hyper gets going, TSM have a chance to win. If not, they're fighting from behind, and it's really difficult for them. So really want to keep our eyes on the jungle matchup, see if Hyper can have a better matchup today against CLG, who have been on fire.
Exactly. They have a tough opponent right now. So, Magical, I want to bring it to you next. Still on the topic of TSM Academy. Where do you see that support coming in for Hyper? Is it going to be the classic Viper, hard carry top lane? Just, Hyper, don't worry about jungle. Just keep ganking top side.
The thing is, I look at how TSM play, and, the Viper-Hyper duo, the V2, is going to always be fun to watch. But I actually have my eyes on Instinct in a lot of ways. Because I think Instinct is this player that kind of just goes under the radar. He has solid laning phase. His positioning is usually really good when it comes to the team fights. And he's someone who I think is a rock for the team. He's someone they can always fall back onto and rely on. The biggest problem is, as Cubby was kind of saying, is they tend to fall behind sometimes for Hyper. And if Hyper's not ahead, you can see the weaknesses that TSM have. Though there are definitely some shining moments for Hyper, even yesterday. The steal that he had to deny the soul immediately allowed the game to drag on a little bit longer. I just want to see more of that aggression earlier into the game. Because when we see him actually able to play aggressively and not have a bad trade that allows his jungler to get fed early, he's able to just completely stomp and own the game. they need to make sure they're facilitating Hyper a little bit more early game. I think that's how TSM will be able to really fix any mistakes that they have.
All right, so that's our focus for TSM Academy then. Unfortunately, as you know, tough as this can be for a player in a pressure situation, eyes will be on Hyper. Now let's talk CLG Academy. I want to bring us to their opponents on the Rift, because this is a team that's looking on fire right now. Cubby, I think that you even said that just earlier during the segment here. Why are we so excited about CLG Academy?
I love their mentality in this early season. And, I mean, this is a team, I believe they are the most experienced Academy team that we have, even if Triple was playing instead of Palafox, as Triple is still, in the process of getting over here from Australia for this season. Palafox has been stepping in and playing great, but it's the manner in which CLG are finding their wins. They're really indexing towards their strengths, which is Rosethorn being proactive with these invades. I mean, Joshi said it week 1, 3-wave plans for CLG have been massive for them. And the way that they are able to pick the right spots to go in, but also how the team supports it. They're doing a really good job of playing with pressure and priority. And then all of a sudden, they went 3-1 early in week 1. They were looking good. And then yesterday in game 2, they get behind. They just throw 3 Hail Marys in a row in a game that was doomed against Immortals. I mean, Pretty got a pentakill on Casson, was 10-2. CLG was down gold in that series. And they came back and won by doing a 2-man Baron into some ballistic team fights. It was one of the better games I've seen so far, and so much credit goes to CLG for making those calls.
Big Dokes, too. That top lane play, I mean, a lot of the clips that I saw were just Big Dokes getting solo kill after solo kill after solo kill.
Game 1, Gwen was nuts from Dokla.
What I see from CLG Academy, as I'm hearing that we're ready to hop into pick and ban, is that this is a team that plays off of momentum better than any other team potentially right now in the league. If they get rolling, it's hard to stop it. So let's see if they can get things rolling into game 1 as I pass it over to the casters to take it away for pick and ban.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's always good having you. And it's actually my first time with you as a host here for this Academy split. I'm excited to be with you. Ooh. And I'm excited to start off these games, getting us jumping in to our first pick and ban for day 2 in week 2. TSM Academy, CLG Academy. We kind of talked about it a lot, and I really do want to focus on this top half of the map, because Dokla, a lot of solo kills that he was able to get. It was amazing to see how he was able to play, but Viper's also a player that we tend to have our eyes on a lot. He's a player that tends to be able to have a lot of pop-offs, and it's all dependent on how Hyper's able to play around them.
I think that Viper consistently has been the best performer for TSM Academy in the early season, and he's been either playing Gwen or marksman picks in Academy, which is actually kind of funny. So TSM really indexing towards one of the unique strengths of Viper, which is his champion pool and his ability to carry. But going up against Dokla, he's also played a couple marksmen, all right? I had the Akshan game, and these 2 top laners, they have experience. They've both been in the LCS before, but I think the form that they're in at the moment actually makes this a really interesting matchup on the top side, given the unique champion pools and how well these players are doing right now.
As we get into our bans, Caitlyn, Twisted Fate, Xin Zhao taken away by TSM. But double up on the jungle bans comes in from CLG, really hitting at Hyper by taking away the Diana Yasuo potential since we are on 12-2, but also that Corki flex pick. We have to put big quotes up. It looks like we had a bit of an issue, but we'll hopefully be able to get that resolved. Probably just going to run back through the same things, but the Corki ban is something I personally like to see, mostly because I just don't like seeing Corki Victor. Don't want to see that anymore. Tired of it. I don't mind each of the champions individually. When they don't actually go up against one another, I just hate seeing that lane.
I also like the Corki ban against TSM because Viper's actually shown that he can play it well on the top side. And if anyone did tune into the TSM 100 Thieves game on this stream yesterday, I think TakeOver actually had a couple game-saving packages for the side of TSM that almost none of them that win in the first game versus 100 Thieves Academy. So do like that ban from CLG. We do have a bug at the moment. Apparently, champions were not available to see for your sons, which that could be a bit of a problem.
You don't want to play ARAM? You don't want to just random it? You don't want to have a roll of the dice, see what you can get?
Do you get 2 rerolls?
No.
That could be interesting.
No?
Okay, I'm out.
You gotta have the Chad move. Whatever you're given, you just go with regardless. No trades. See, no nothing.
I like the 2 rerolls, and then you get the 3rd one where it's like that. So, like, if you want to roll the dice, truly.
I can respect that. Yeah. As long as no matter what you commit with the RNG, it's like you use your 2 rerolls, and the 3rd one, you have to go with that. So you even skip over something that you might like.
That's true.
I can respect that.
But I mean, as long as we're rolling the dice, I feel like Mad Magical's a fan.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, you should be a big fan of CLG early in the season then, as they have truly been the ones to roll the dice. And while we do have this extra time, as we do have a player relogging, I mean, I think the comeback that CLG had yesterday and the manner in which they did it against Immortals, I mean, that was what we were kind of calling our match of the week, right? The two strongest teams from week 1 going up against each other. And CLG dominate game 1 in the 1-3-1 strategy with Gwen, Aurelia for solo lanes. And then game 2, they just... that was one of the wilder comebacks I've seen in League of Legends. And I mean, like, competitive play so far this year across every league. And I've been trying to stay tuned to hold the major regions so far. That game was up there as like one of... I cannot fathom how CLG came back in that game.
But then if you look at CLG and how they played already here in our spring split, that's not the first time in any series that they've even rolled the dice. You look over to how they played against Cloud9, the Rek'Sai pick for Roastler, and the Comfort pick. And normally you're like, okay, Rek'Sai into Xin Zhao just invades early, can put the Rek'Sai behind. Instead, Rosethorn invades, they get the blue buff, immediately down towards bot lane, gets the early kills, and bada bing, bada boom, you got your Rek'Sai fed early.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I like. I mean, when it comes to CLG early, like speaking with Rosethorn, right? It's he loves to play aggressive, right? Like when he was talking about other teams in our conversation, he was like, yeah, it's like these teams play conservatively, so I'm not worried, right? It feels like the key word for CLG is that aggression. And what's impressed me about them is the manner that they're doing it in, right? It's calculated. They're playing with priority early. They're diving people when, you know, you have a lane that you can like set it up. So, hey, third wave, that first cannon, we're going to try and dive you, get a big advantage, whether that's bot, top, whether that's using that priority to invade the jungler and get a buff. CLG are doing things early in the game. It's paying off for them as games go on, and that's what makes them a really exciting team right now in the early season.
I think we have gotten the bugs sorted out for our champion select, so hopefully we'll be able to jump back into that one. But just kind of finishing off on this Rosethorn point. When you look at how he was last year on Golden Guardians Academy, well, you know, similar to how Golden Guardians is this year, playing a lot of games, not only are they playing in the lock-in, but also playing in the Proving Grounds. We saw a similar thing last year for them. Rosethorn being a part of that team got a lot of experience, but you could tell there were some high highs for the player as well as some low lows. This year, it seems like he's been able to really fix a lot of those mistakes. He looks a lot more consistent. He looks a lot more aggressive in ways that we've been wanting to see from him. And if he can continue this kind of domination going into the spring split, he's a good contender of players that are in an argument for why they deserve to get promoted as long as he can keep this pace.
I think that's the big key for Rosethorn, because as you mentioned, I think that whole Golden Guardians team itself, there were some issues with consistency overall. That included Rosethorn, Prismal, and some of the staff of CLG too. But I mean, that's also something that Rosethorn early in the season is like, I'm not worried about that, right? Like, we're going to try things. We're going to do our best to send it, do our best to make sure that we're going to go for proactive plays. And if, you know what, if they don't pan out, we're going to be better in the long run for it. So I really like the mentality coming out of CLG early in the season. I mean, we're an academy, right? I want to see teams going for things like this. And I want to make sure that the way that CLG is doing it stays as calculated as it feels, because it really feels like the plays they're going for 80% of the time, they have numbers. They have the strength of the champions or items in their back pocket early in these games. So as long as CLG is keeping that up, I think that CLG are going to be a scary team to face here in Academy.
Yeah, but we are getting into the champion select, so hopefully we'll be able to get everyone else seeing this so they can know what's going on with the champion select. It's really interesting to see the change of pace from both teams. You know, kind of refreshing everyone's memory on what had happened. The double jungle ban of Lise and Diana, two champions that are considered at the top of the table when it is our meta for the jungle pool, plus Hyper being so efficient on playing both of those champions. Makes sense to take that away, as well as the Corki for that flexibility that TSM have been able to prove with it. While on the flip side, Caitlyn, Twisted Fate, those are more of the bans that we see towards the meta, things that are just strong right now. While we see that final ban that they chose was Xin Zhao, something that Rosethorn has played to great success. Hyper has played it a couple of times, but it's been kind of middling. You got to see how he's going to be able to really grow with those champions. It's really how CLG have been able to adapt to the current meta, play these skirmishers right.
And I mean, leaning into some of the natural strengths of the players that you have in the early season is good, but I know specifically for TSM, I was also kind of pushing them to get out of their comfort zone, right? I think that's something that kind of limited the team last year as things went on. And I know they had a tough 0-2 against 100 Thieves Academy yesterday, but something I did like, your son on Rakan that game, champion that he has not played a whole lot of. So the fact that, he was able to at least play that, and he didn't have his best game, but if you want your son to, be ready to play at the next level, you have to keep on pushing this player to play more things, because we know how good he is on those big tanky main engagers. We have to see how good he is on those Enchantresses and some of the other picks as well. As we are here and we got some catching up to do.
Yes, we do. So let me kind of run through everything. The Jinx first pick, kind of expected when we see the Caitlyn has been banned away. Easy take for the side of TSM. While on the flip side, Thresh, good pick, especially if Aphelios is left open. You don't have to worry about grabbing that. So CLG, they get themselves that Jarvan instead of letting Hyper have that. On the flip side, Hyper goes for the Poppy. Yurson on to Nautilus, one of these champions we've seen many a times. And then into the second part of the bans, we see it's Akali, LeBlanc, powerful champions, flexibility that they tend to have, at least in the Akali, while LeBlanc is really good in Takeover's hands, so they grab themselves that Victor. Since it wasn't banned, we don't have to worry about Victor Corki. And, Takeover just wants to have something that's going to be a little bit more impactful for the team, so he grabs an Orianna with a Camille in the top lane for Viper, and they round it all out with a Gwen. Whew!
Rap God. I'm glad I had you cover that. We got to go over some of the decisions now. I think first pick Jinx when you have Thresh and Jarvan up is a bit of a mistake, but I do kind of like the Poppy to try and salvage this. I know that this is something that Peanut, especially in the LCK, has been playing quite a bit of, and it's found a lot of success on too. Of course, Jarvan, you can't flag a drag. You have to Cataclysm the Poppy, and even if you do, then you get hit into your own wall. It's tough. So for the side of TSM, it's all about the Jinx resets, and I think playing towards that Camille early to try and get the Gwen behind. If Gwen gets behind, I think that's where CLG might be able to find a little bit of trouble, because Orianna, Nautilus, Poppy, all around the Jinx. You said it, right? You wanted to see Instinct be that late game safety net, as he has been playing really consistently in this early season, and TSM certainly have a comp where they can buy a ton of space for Instinct to try and get that first reset, get excited, and tear through a fight from there.
And this, honestly, just looking across the board, I really like the Orianna Camille too. That has a bit of synergy that you can utilize with that. Since you're going to have the Camille dive in, you can put the ball on top of her. Shockwave afterwards, after everyone tries to collapse again on top of her. Or if she just hook shots in, immediate Shockwave, then the ultimatum afterwards to lock down target. There's so many different tools that TSM have. But for CLG, I kind of look at this and, Victor, Aphelios, Gwen, good scalers as well. They're not champions that you can just shirk off and forget about. So even though Instinct is on this Jinx, you have to contend against an Aphelios. You have to contend against Victor and Gwen.
And I think the Victor is especially going to be a big problem in this game. I know that Ori can, buy space and zone, but Victor, he can just drop a laser and ultimate and walk away, right? And that does a lot of damage with where Victor's current state is at right now in the game. So I think that if TSM can find a way to get Viper ahead and try and attack Victor from there, maybe that's the setup that they need to make sure that Instinct is set up for success. And curious to see if that ends up being the early game plan for TSM.
As we load up onto the Rift, it is our first game here, day 2, week 2. TSM Academy, they want to make sure that they can bounce back. They've had a couple of rough spots, sitting at just right in the middle of the pack, right below it, while CLG Academy, they are now on top of the world, having beaten the undefeatable just yesterday. They can continue this gravy train all the way and take it to the station. They're looking like they're going to be our top Academy team.
And I know that we spent a lot of the early game talking about Hyper and Rosethorn, as they've really been instrumental in their team's success or failures, depending on the game. But I actually want to talk a little bit about Dokla and Viper, as currently these players have the 2 highest gold differentials at 10, and for a 2-4 team in Academy, Viper is up on average 404 gold in lane at 10. Dokla 530. That's almost leading the league in terms of gold diff in 10. In fact, it is for Dokla. So really looking forward to see these 2 top laners go toe-to-toe, as it looks like they're going to be left on their lonesome, as both junglers are starting on the top side.
Gonna give them a lot of time to try to see who's going to be the better top laner. Both of them on a very similar story arc. Both of them trying to regain a foothold in Academy and LCS as well, because they are players that have had success in the Amateur, had success in Academy, but they want to regain their spot in the LCS, because both of them are, incredibly talented players. They just need to show it on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, Viper won Proving Grounds with an amateur team, right? That's how he ended up in Academy for Summer.
And then don't forget the run back they had in the losers bracket in Summer, too, when he was a part of the Immortals Academy roster.
Yeah, him and Anda both put up pretty respectable performance there as they managed to take 4th in the tournament. But we are here in 2022. Going to focus on some of the games going on now as looks like we have Hyper going for the full clear on the top side, whereas Rosethorn skipping over a few camps. Once he takes this blue, might actually have a window to attack the bottom lane if he would like to.
See, what Poppy Jungle really reminds me of is, I don't know how long you've played the game, Cubby, is back in the day when you had Nunu Jungle, that was the big thing because all he did was try to neutralize and stop what his opponent wanted to do. Poppy has a similar role. And not exactly like just stopping and invading, taking all the camps, but more so in the way that you're always going to be a reactive kind of jungler. You always want to see where Rosethorn's going to be and always try to match that. If you're right behind him, right on his heels, that's perfect. Because you can always stop the Jarvan from getting that early pressure.
It was a little bit different, you know, the Blood Boil Noonan in the old days.
It reminds me of it. I'm not saying it's exactly the same.
Yeah. The steadfast presence is difficult to deal with, especially, you know, there are a lot of dashes on the side of CLG. So we're going to have to see how Hyper can time that up, as we do have Hyper. He's taking that bot crab, making sure that he's good to go. And actually, pretty nice early path here from Hyper to set things up.
And seeing Yurson already here in the mid lane, getting this hard shove on a Palafox, allowing takeover of this cheater recall early onto the game. I even wonder, do you even bother TPing? That was a massive minion wave you had crashing into the turret. So you could easily just back by yourself. There you go, boots and a Doran's ring, and then man, you could have walked back to bait. You could have walked the lane. You didn't have to use the TP takeover.
I like how you actually spotted that out. It could have been an option, but of course, mid-lane experience is very important. And this is a look that I like from TSM. So Takeover last year, right? TSM Academy did have 2 mid-laners between Takeover and Sword. I gotta pause as we have action in the top lane instead of the mid lane. Viper was not able to get that recall off, and he's in trouble.
He does have that ignite if need be. Flag and drag in, doesn't even get to use it. It's already first blood for Rosethorn.
Really well played by Rosethorn, as it looks like Dokla crashed that second wave and now the 6th wave as well, just to make sure that, you know, when that wave bounces back into you, Viper can't really control it on the bounce back, and Rosethorn is there in time. Another great setup, not on the 3rd wave for CLG, but very early in the game to get themselves a lead.
If we look bot lane, that was a nice hook from Breezy onto Instinct there. Gets the flash out of Instinct, out of the Jinx early on into the game, since they already had to use the heal from Prismal to dodge away from that level 1 hook that Yurson had a couple minutes ago. So they even up a lot of the lane states for the side of CLG. Getting a good push here in the spot lane. Getting control over Instinct and Yurson. Really trying to make sure that Yurson's not going to be able to roam around the map anymore.
And CLG's bot lane, you need to get a reset in here as well. Should be able to do so, as we can now see. So this top lane matchup between Gwen and Camille, this is a big lead now for Dokla. And I think the one point where Camille, has some advantages in this matchup is when she completes Sheen on even footing, and then when she completes Divine Sunder on even footing. Those 2 timers have now been missed because of that gank. And now Viper has to look elsewhere as he's looking mid.
But Palafox got 6 flashed away. Nice read from Palafox. Living up to the Palafaker nickname that everyone has been dubbing him.
I mean, I wouldn't call that flash something.
I don't know. I think it was a good read. He was playing far back. He was in a position. Sure, he had to blow flash, but honestly, if you're playing this Victor, you hit level 6-2, you're getting a lot of attention. None of these ganks have really amounted to much except getting that flash right there. Think about it. Earlier, Yurson, he showed up mid lane. What could he do? He didn't even get the TP until later.
And honestly, that mid lane play not working out for TSM, I think that kind of leads the tempo into the Dragon, right? Prismal got push in that bot lane. Now is able to rotate up, support the Dragon. CLG take this in the meanwhile, and the early game plan for CLG continues to pay off.
Getting a lot of this early lead for them. Rosethorn, successful dive early on. They've got their lane states going pretty well. Everything's going according to plan for CLG. And on the flip side, TSM, Need to see what they're going to be able to do. They've sent Hyper nearby to the top lane, but he's been spotted out by that ward, placed down long ago, I believe even by Doklo when Rosethorn was setting up the gank. So they know exactly where this Poppy is. Hyper hasn't really been able to do too much just yet. He's trying to find any lane, like right here. He's got the Shockwave already out. It's going to be the Gravity Field setup with the Keeper's Verdict kill for Takeover.
Nice. All right, good setup, revisiting the flash, and much needed for the side of TSM because look at this top lane. I mean, Dokla has kept this frozen the entire time. Viper cannot overextend, right? Doesn't have this teleport. Dokla very far ahead in items, sitting on the Leeching Leer right now compared to the Longsword. So this lane's in such a difficult spot, and Rosethorn's even up top at the moment, so could visit if he would like to, and this pressure is going to force Viper to base early while that wave is on CLG's side of the map. So that first gank leading into even more thanks to the laning from Dokla.
It's helping out CLG, making sure that they maintain a little bit of a lead. It's about 1,000 gold that they have over TSM Academy. And a lot of that is, like you said, into Dokla. Look at, he's got more than double the CS of Viper. This Camille just can't do much, and I'm wondering how TSM can break this top lane matchup. Really try to see if they can turn the tides back towards them.
Well, I love this from Dokla because he was holding the freeze, but now that Rosethorn has started up Shelly, is now going to break it, make sure that crashes into the turret, and open up this window where CLG should be able to pick up this Rift Herald uncontested. Once again, great map play from CLG in the early game. And for fans at home, if you want to know why we're just harping on CLG's early game, it's only been 6 games so far this season in Academy. But on average, CLG has been up 3.5k gold at the 15-minute mark. It's, to be exact, 3,488 gold at 15. That is an insane margin on average through 6 games, and I think we're seeing some of why they've been able to put up leads like this with how well they are playing this map as a team early.
You look at every lane, right? You look at Dokla. Dokla, he's living up to that nickname of Big Dokes. Palafox in the mid lane, even though he died, he's keeping up with CS against Takeover. He's not really doing too bad, and it's a Victor. So Victor's just going to try to get some items anyways. Bot lane, Prismal, Breezy, it's an Aphelios Splash lane. It's a hard lane to gank. This is why you see that Hyper is trying to visit it, but how do you really get to them? You have Thresh, you have Aphelios. Both of them are going to be pretty safe, even though not exactly the guns that are going to make sure that you can heal up a gank. You're going to be able to dish out a lot of damage.
I think that was intelligent for Prismal and Breezy to step back there to make sure that your son couldn't fish for one of those dredge lines, and instead, Palafox still doesn't have flash mid. So this blue buff is going to be handed off to the Victor, but I want to see if TSM can attack there again, and you can see both Viper and your son kind of hovering mid, playing in the river, trying to support Takeover, who, with the help of his team, has been able to secure at least a small CS gap in that mid lane.
Look at the minimap. Viper is looking towards mid lane again. Bot lane is shoving in for a CLG, which allows them a little bit of time to rotate towards that lane too. They can easily see if they can counteract what Viper's trying to do while Hyper chases off Rosethorn.
And a part of the fear behind that is the fact that Viper keeps on not showing on the top wave, as because of the deficit that Viper's been facing, this is kind of enforced by the side of CLG, right? Dokla just keeps on holding that wave on his side of the map, and look at that CS gap that's opened up in the top lane. I mean, Dokla has almost double the CS of Viper. This is all off of one dive and how Dokla has ran with this lead. And TSM has had no way to break this.
This is why Dokla has been, in my opinion, one of the best top laners, if not the best top laner in Academy.
The best. He's got, yes, so far, the best top laner.
The lead
hands
that
down.
CLG has is all in Dokla right now. In fact, he has more than the lead that they have. He's got so much gold that he can utilize, that he can lord. Getting the Blasting Wand too, a lot of people talk about the Leeching Lair kind of being like meh as an item, like a component into Riftmaker. Well, the true damage comes from that Blasting Wand. The amount of AP, flat AP, and oh my god, he's already completed the Riftmaker, so that whole point I was just making out the window.
Yeah, this 11-minute Mythic's going to make things so difficult for Viper. And I'm curious to see if CLG can use this to set up a second dragon, because I think that's where they can really put the clamps on TSM, is if they're coming out of this early game with 2 dragons, with that gold lead, they still have Shelly in their back pockets as well to do something proactive with, but Rosethorn, instead of maybe sending that top lane, hovering mid lane, which was intelligent, able to dissuade TSM from pulling off a dive on Palafox, who does have that flash back up now, but looks like no no luck for TSM in that mid lane dive, and we'll have to just go for the dragon instead.
Well, and despite the fact that you see there's a lot of vision control from TSM, CLG are just, they're very knowledgeable. They know exactly where TSM is. Right there, they knew that there was attempted play. They only had set up one ward, that control ward they have in the bush, to be able to spot that out. But they already knew well in advance, hey, we don't see anybody bot lane. Yurson's gone, so he's probably looking for something mid lane. Boom, there they are. This is just intelligent reads coming in from everyone on CLG, so they can then go top lane without that vision that I'm talking about. But they already know, just from paying attention to where everyone is, the lane states, the minion waves, that TSM are trying to now read them into the top lane and trying to see if they can counteract the Shelly charge.
Not going to be able to take first brick, so TSM was able to at least dissuade that, but still, CLG opening up this gold lead even further, almost at 2K now, Mad Magical. And when you have, I mean, the big problem in this game is going to be Gwen, and it's kind of reminding me of game 1 yesterday that CLG played against Immortals. Dokla got out of control on the Gwen, was legendary in the side lane on this pick, and it feels similar this game in the sense that, yes, TSM have some nice team fight tools and combos, but they have no way to deal with Gwen in the side lane the later this game goes, unless they're sending... Camille can close the gap pretty fast, but it's going to have to be Camille and another carry to have enough damage to get through Gwen, and keep in mind that Shroud makes things difficult as well. So I think Dokla's going to be invincible against this Camille Poppy combo, and that's going to make things really difficult for TSM throughout this one.
For TSM, it's getting difficult to see exactly the win condition that they have in this one. Normally, it is about Viper getting the leads in lane. Viper being the one out of control with Hyper right on his heels. But in this game, it's back to the drawing board. I talked about Instinct before as a player that I've kind of kept my eyes on. And this could be something that they can utilize, but it's so hard to actually kill Prismal. They've got all this damage, but now it's explosive damage coming in and reversing. They're going to be able to get the heal. Breezy's now low, but he's got the box blade down with the Knight. Death Sentence dragging him through, getting the damage through, and he's going to be able to turn it 1-for-1 at the moment. With the wet noodle fight continuing between Breezy and Yurson. The flash in. Breezy, no way! He's going to 2v1 this one. He's got it. Double kill for Breezy.
Some supportal combat as meanwhile top lane.
Getting another kill on a poor Viper top lane.
Oh, man. All right, so if we get a replay of this bot play, we got to give some credit to Yurson. The Nautilus from this player is wild, but Yurson, I think, guessed the dredge line or the Gale Force of Prismal with the dredge line. I couldn't tell if it was a guess. Oh, it was. Oh, my goodness, Yurson, that is disgusting, as it at least enables the trade of kills, but then Breezy, with Ignite fighting in a bigger minion wave, was able to actually take down Instinct, landing some nice skill shots, as well as Instinct wasn't able to flash out of that death sentence, and Breezy says, why not too, as... Hey, you know what? It's rare as a support when you get the opportunity to pick up some kills. So Breezy making the best out of that one. Top lane, Viper just getting ran down. Once again, that top lane matchup, so difficult because of that first gank that Rosethorn threw up there. And the way they're cashing it in and playing around it, really textbook stuff from CLG.
Gabby, I forget. What are you main again when it comes to League? What role?
Oh, I was a support Mad Magical.
Okay, but do you prescribe to the philosophy that I go for where the ADCs get the CS but the supports get the kills?
Well, you know, I don't have any hands, so I had to play Braum. And I did play Braum and Leona up to a pretty decent level of play. But no,
Look,
I
don't
didn't
have
take
hands
kills.
either, but I play Vigar support and get all the kills.
if I played Vigar support, I would have been flamed to absolutely no end.
I get flamed all the time, but I still get all the kills.
I guess we have different theories on what we want out of our solo queue experiences.
But see, Breezy, at least he's listening. He's got 2 kills there. Looking pretty hot in the spot lane. Honestly, though, I've said this already. It's looking difficult to see the angle that TSM can utilize to win this game. I was thinking maybe Instinct, bot lane, the Jinx is scaling, then that play happened, where even though you're able to get the 1 kill on the Prismal, Breezy turns it around, gets 2 kills for himself. While support getting the kill isn't the most impactful thing, it's still making sure that Jinx is not going to get this bonus, not going to get the bounties necessary to really start snowballing out of control, or the CS. You're now having nearly every lane fall behind on except for this mid lane.
I think that's a good point, and I do want to credit CLG for kind of breaking that, right? That top lane gank, it's forcing Viper to miss out on the timers where you can actually win that matchup versus the Gwen. And I'll say after this, too, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to see TSM do this year was try more things. That's the point I was kind of trying to get into with the 2 different mid laners they had. Takeover, didn't have any competitive games last year on Victor, Twisted Fate, or Orianna. Now already has games on all 2 out of the 3 of those champions early in the season. A lot of that was because Sword was the one that was responsible for roamers and control mages, whereas Takeover was more of a melee player. But these are some of the growing pains that TSM are going to face. I know Takeover's having a nice game, but having this champion in the mid lane can lead to a different team feel, having someone not able to answer or maybe go up top, get out of lane more. So I am at least glad that TSM's taking this approach early, but they are facing down a 3k gold deficit, and with this dragon up, gonna have to see if Palafox TPs to get to this fight.
One of the things that's gonna help them is they took that tier 1 in the mid lane with the help of Shelly. They're gonna be able to get a lot of control over the jungle of CLG, and you can see right there, they're just getting rid of them. They're making sure that there's not gonna be that engage coming in from Rosethorn, but they got the shockwave onto 2 members. They still have Yurson in the middle, so they'll sacrifice the support so they can get that objective earlier on.
I'd say that's well worth it for the side of TSM, right? You at least get the dragon, you prevent as the stacking, the mountain dragon as well. Pretty helpful for the side of TSM is, I mean, never going to say no to some extra resistances, right? I'll give a support for that any day.
For sure. And it could be a fallback win condition. If they can keep this game going on long enough, they could potentially get the soul. But here, Instinct, just dead. There's no reason you're going to be able to survive that one. Prismal getting the kill too. It's all detrimental while the bot lane turret going down as well. A lot of things crumbling again for TSM, where they make one good play, CLG makes 3.
Yeah, that's I'd say a youthful mistake coming out of Instinct, stepping up on that wave. Just let that wave come to the tower, and maybe you can make a play there. But good read from CLG to make sure they turn that one against TSM. And I think that the concern that we had throughout this game was that the way that TSM can win these fights is those Orianna combos that you were highlighting, right? The big depth charge into a shockwave. Maybe that's what gets TSM back into the game here, but as long as CLG is sticking to these sides and Rosethorn is finding skirmishes with numbers, I mean, TSM, they don't win in the side lane. So I love how CLG has just been denying them fights, and I want to see if Hyper can maybe get a read or a counter gank off to maybe turn things in their favor.
We'll see. I'm kind of looking at what can TSM do when it comes to these team fights, the skirmishes, the objective bounties that they could possibly pick up. And they have really good front-to-back team fight, don't they? The only one question mark is going to be Viper on this Camille, since he's pretty far behind. And this is where I even posit to you, Cubby. Maybe Viper just changes up the build path and goes for a little bit of a tankier route.
I mean, you can always do that with Sterex coming in. I'm talking.
No. I'm talking like tank. I'm not talking like, you know, bruiser.
You know what? We'll leave that one to the lab, Matt. We'll do
I'm
it that way.
just saying, it's like you're 0-2 right now. You're down more than 50 CS to Dokla. Dokla is going to be able to beat you in these side lanes at all times. Even if you get a Sterex, you're going to have a difficult time fighting against them. So why not be a frontline tool? Essentially, it's the Jarvan role when it comes to the late game, right? Where Jarvan's really good at the early game, but at the end of the game, he's more the engage tool, the tank, the front line. He'll transition his build to be that front line who can absorb all the pressure. I'm almost wondering if Viper wants to go something similar to how Hyper is, where Hyper on Poppy's obviously going to be tanky, but it's always good to have a couple meatballs in front of you.
I'm never against having some meatballs in front, you know. I will say, though, I feel like Sterex for the side of Viper, it's going to be fine, just given the fact that it does kind of make you a pseudo-tank. Given when you do go in, that is going to be the role of Viper. And I think the bigger focus for them is just, are they going to be able to get on the right target? And at this point, I mean, do you pick the Victor or do you pick the Aphelios? And then
what about Gwen?
What do you do about Dokla? What do you do about Dokla this game? I mean, the way the CLG is just kind of making sure that they have perma prio in these sides, I mean, for the side of TSM, this Poppy Nautilus combo, maybe they find a pick here, but Rosethorn a little bit wiser to it, and CLG continues to just push forward as
nice depth charge, though, into the back line to be able to get a double knockup. They got a lot of damage with the sad fast presence, trying to deny, but a nice time out there for the Lantern take back for Rosethorn. He's still alive. They can see Viper on the other side onto the Palafox, getting a lot of damage, but all the while, Dokka's in the middle of everybody. They're going to be able to get the kill on the Palafox. Pull that coming in onto Viper. Trying to see if they can get Dokka. Shockwave going to whiff, though. Dokka still alive. Charge back into the wall, and they're going to be able to slay the beast of Dokka with 2 members still on the other side. Still healthy, 1 recalling on the side of CLG. They have to back out of this fight and let TSM control the river.
This ends up being a really nice fight from TSM as CLG very, very, very aggressive trying to fight in that choke. They didn't have Dokla to start. Viper, he chose Palafox and chose wisely, as we're going to get a second look. Fighting over this vision, I mean, when this hook lands, you just don't need to go for this Q. It enables TSM to say, hey, we have a 3v2 at the moment, and Rosethorn not able to get over that blast cone. Just leads the CLG awkwardly pushing and fighting in this choke as Palafox got melted. Dokla didn't have the support of the team because the team lost the rest of their health bars, and TSM just end up finding 2, which was much needed for them as they need to continue to come back in this game.
Honestly, I think the big thing for me is the fact that they got the kill onto Dokla, right? Dokla might not have any kills, but how important he is for a lot of these fights, making sure that he's not going to continue to scale up further and further by getting those kills, really ripping apart TSM, is going to allow them this reprieve to play around the dragon they've already set up for. With Dokla on the other side with Rosethorn, there is going to be a fight ensuing. There's soul point potential for the side of TSM if they're going to be able to get this, but it's going to be the flag and drag in. There's going to be the fight secure going in for Hyper. Rosethorn's going to be the first target taken down with Dokla into the backline, getting the flash out of Instinct, with pulled back in with the lantern. Takeover taking a lot of damage. They're going to be able to get kill on the Hyper with Palafox getting a lot of damage of his own, but look at Prismal. Your son slowed down. Blast cone away to be able to survive.
I think the CLG might be able to push Baron off this. They got the jungler and the...
Yes. They should be able to take that one pretty fast. They're already pathing towards it. It'll be spotted out. There is a potential that TSM could fight around this one, but it's going to be risky. They have the rocket out of Instinct.
TSM walking into the fog of war. I'm not sure if they're going to even be able to get in as Baron's already below half.
They've got the vision now. Where's the rocket, though, from Instinct? He's got to put the YOLO rocket out if he wants to be able to get it. Viper's into the pit, but now they've got the damage on top of him. He's already taken out. Here's the rocket, but it's going to be body blocked by Prismo with the Baron secured by CLG.
And the way that CLG plays this fight in the pit, this is a much better setup for them when we get the replay because they were actually able to support Dokla this time around.
Honestly, that's what you need to do as CLG. Dokla is the big member on your team. While Prismal, he's got a lot of damage as well, and if you can keep both of them alive, that is ideal. Playing around Dokla's flank angles when he goes into the backline and starts ripping apart anybody. Doesn't matter how tanky they might seem on the surface, he is going to take everyone down to shreds.
And this time around, I mean, Rosethorn just says, I'm full sending it going in, and actually ends up dying without the ultimate, which does put CLG on the back foot at the start of the fight, but Prismal's positioning with Dokla in front, he goes untouched. They were actually able to support Dokla when he went in that time instead of having him go in isolated. Much better fight from CLG as they are able to keep things in tune and are now back in favor of this game as it's a 6K gold lead with a lot of standing gold on the map. The one concern for them, Mad Magical, is going to be those Ocean Dragons. As TSM, the saving grace, they have gotten the last 2 dragons for themselves. This could be a soul coming up, right?
And that's what we were kind of saying before, that it could be a fallback for TSM. It's the saving grace they have at the moment. That's a lot of ambient gold you're able to gain when having a soul, let alone the Ocean Soul as well, to really help your team. So any damage that could come in from CLG is going to be able to be shirked off. The biggest problem is, you look at CLG's composition, they're not just trying to see if they can whittle you out. They're looking for the full Ascent fight. They've got the pull coming in. They're getting a lot of damage onto Hyper. He has to flash away from the Chaos Storm burning on top of him. He'll be able to survive, but that's a lot used just to keep him alive.
There should be 2 more inner turrets falling as Palafox Dokla shift up here. And I like how Breezy is just looking to find poke damage, right? Understands that Breezy, he can position pretty far up as the Thresh with Aftershock, as a lot of supports have been going for Glacial of late, but with a couple changes to Glacial, looks like we have some more Aftershock coming back for these champions now as CLG looking to get the other one as Dokla has an angle.
Big jokes in the back line. They got the Moonlight Vigil. They got the kills they need to. 2 are taken out. Dokla still alive. He's healing back up with the help of that Riftmaker, and he's still going. CLG get 3 kills, and they're going to crack the base of TSM.
I think they might crack the game, Mad Magical, as Dokla just 1v5, and with the help of the heal from Prismal, was able to sustain enough with the kit of Gwen.
I think this is going to be the game. One potential fight could come in as we have everything skipping around. This happened yesterday. All right, so we'll have to guess what's going on. Can you guess what's going on with the pictures? It looks like CLG cracking 1 Axis turret. Should be the second one falling as well. They got the shutdown for Hyper onto Dokla, but it doesn't matter. CLG are going to take game 1 over TSM Academy, finishing it off with a triple kill for Palafox.
And, I mean, CLG in that game, it really felt like they made one mistake, Matt Magical, right? It was that overextension by the blue buff up in that river. And after that, I mean, they recovered and just put together a pretty smooth 27-minute win. I mean, the CLG just picking up right where they left off yesterday, especially Dokla, who bringing out the Gwen again in game 1, finding another win.
Dokla and Rosethorn. I got to look at both those players because Rosethorn set up Dokla right out of the gate. That early dive, I mean, honestly, it was clinical. It was a perfect dive. There's little that Viper could do to really stop that one. And then from there, it was Dokla's lane. Viper essentially was not in this game the entire time.
And, I mean, that is the strongest performer that we've seen from TSMA in the early season, and the fact that CLG was just able to neutralize that with one gank and some really good laning from Dokla. Also, special credit to Palafox, who had the dodge out on a lot of Viper roams and a lot of Urson roams. Versus Camille Nautilus as a Victor Flashless, that's tough. Only went down once, and I think that really helped CLG make sure to get into those later stages of the game where once they started fighting together, looked rather unstoppable against TSM.
They did. And honestly, this is why we have to now look at CLG Academy as being our top Academy team. They looked good. Yes, I mean, honestly, they didn't even just look good. They looked great yesterday. They're still looking great today. Like you said, maybe one mistake that we could really pinpoint. And honestly, every team's going to have one. Everyone's human. If you have one mistake, that's something that you can work with.
And I think CLG, I mean, they're working with a lot of good things in this one. TSM, a couple more things to go back to the drawing board and try out. The Poppy answer and the Jarvan I like, but I don't love giving up Thresh Jarvan R1, R2. I feel like that's a really good combo right now. And hey, CLG, they proved it. They were the better team in that one.
They were. So we're going to toss it to a break. When we come back, we'll have a quarter, a third show. I don't know. I'm not good with fractions. Something that Kangas told me to set up, but honestly, you'll just have to wait and see.